You won the title in 2008.
Absolutely.
You guys were a different kind of team, though. You did acquire pieces through trade, obviously getting Ray Allen and Kevin Garnett to come when they came. But you also built a team, right? And then you guys were together and stayed together and went back to the finals in 2010.
Right.
This Raptors team was basically largely assembled this year.
Absolutely.
And they may disperse again. Do you think this is a new precedent in some way for the NBA?
Well, you know, I mean, hats off to the front office of the Raptors. I mean, you know, for him to go all in the way that they did with the firing of Dwayne Casey and hiring Nick Nurse as a first-year coach, I mean, it speaks volumes. And I'm just happy. I'm happy for those guys. I mean, those guys are humble, great guys that work hard every day, and it paid off. You know, at the end of the day, if Kawhi was to leave today, it paid off. He delivered a championship. I think nobody would be mad at him. Nobody would be mad at the front office of the Raptors, and it paid off. The ultimate goal is to get a championship. You always want to go down as having a ring for us to, you know, obviously it's Kawhi's second ring, but he delivered a championship to a franchise that had never won a title.
It's a really relevant question right now, Rachel, because Anthony Davis is in this potential situation.
Absolutely.
And the Warriors are probably going to be sort of in a pause year next year. I don't know else how to say it.
Right.
There's a window, especially if Kawhi leaves the Raptors, where somebody could come in and do what the Raptors just did, which was go full Raptor. Do you go full Raptor? Do you go for Danny Green in a walk here? Do you go for Marc Gasol? He can opt out. He may not, but he can opt out. Do you go for Kawhi Leonard? Right now, the Raptors have no regrets. And when you win the championship, it means not having any regrets. And so
Right.
I do think that there's a team could probably convince itself to do it. I don't see what team it is right now because I think Boston, if they go for Anthony Davis, I don't necessarily think they're a championship team. If they make some other moves, if Kyrie stays, maybe.
Right.
LA is so interesting because, you know, with the Warriors coming down a little bit, if they could pair Anthony Davis with LeBron, but then again, Anthony Davis says he wants to stay there, so it wouldn't be as big of a risk for them. So I'll be interested to see if there's any surprise bidders that come through, especially after seeing how this played out.
I mean, speaking of regrets, you have to look at it. So the Raptors took a gamble, but DeMarcus Cousins also took a gamble.
Absolutely.
He passed up a nice deal where he could have stayed with the Pelicans and decided to come on a one-year deal to try to just get him a ring. So that was a gamble on his part, but it turned out better for the Raptors. And, I mean, you just got to give them praise. I mean, the journey that they had, they had the toughest journey to win the championship in the last 10 years, in my opinion.
You think so?
I think so, because they had to go through, they was down 1-0 to a young, feisty Orlando team that wasn't bad at all. They had to go through Philly, who was projected by a lot of people to come out of the East, and then they beat Milwaukee Bucks and probably the MVP. Okay, they beat them, and then you come in, whether the champs was hurt or not, you defeated them. And I think it was great for basketball because now we're to the point where it's no more the West is better than the East. So I'm happy that a team out of the East won. And you can see it now that basketball is about to start getting back, the NBA is about to start getting back to where it needs to be, and not top-heavy teams. It's about to be real competitive, you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Boogie Cousins would say to you he didn't have an offer from the Pelicans he liked, but I would also agree with you that he thinks the risk he took was worth it, even without winning a ring. I think he really was happy with the support he got from the Warriors where all this worked out. You mentioned also the idea that they're not top-heavy, not everything's concentrated in one team. We've got the odds already for the 2020
Uh-oh.
And they're
title.
shaky. They're shaky in my mind.
Well, one thing I will always remind you is these are betting odds. This is not someone predicting what will happen. They are predicting where people will want to put their money. So there are a lot of people in Los Angeles who really want to bet on the Lakers winning a title. And as you can see, Caesars Sportsbook is happy to take their money.
I'll bet so.
But when you look at that, is there a destination, Brian, that you see for AD there?
So the two teams, they have it at the top. If the Lakers can get Anthony Davis, they become instantaneously relevant. And if the Clippers take Kawhi Leonard from the Raptors, they become a very compelling team, again, in conjunction with the fact that the Warriors are probably not going to be a championship team next season. I say probably because Klay may come back, and if they can edge their way in, who knows? That 10-1 odds, I think, is a little bit low. But I honestly do believe the Clippers are one of the most intriguing teams. but they could also strike out. You know, they not to just want Kawhi. They wanted KD, and they may not get KD now. And you know, it's going to be a fascinating. If you look at this, the team that had the best summer last year ended up winning the title.
Right.
The team that had the best summer in 2016 won the previous 2 titles before that.
Right.
The next championship may very well be essentially decided in the next few weeks.
We had one of our producers here at ESPN, Mike Schiffman, asked me if you had to tell me right now who's going to win the title next year. I said it's probably the exact same thing as last year, where that team hasn't been formed yet.
Right.
Which is something I would agree. Would you take, for Brian's options, would you take a Kawhi Clippers team, or would you take a Lakers, Anthony Davis, LeBron James team?
You know what? I would have to take a Kawhi Clippers team, just for the simple fact that this Clipper team is good. They're well coached, and that's all they missing is a Kawhi Leonard. And you got to think with the injuries that Golden State have, the West is wide open. Now, don't get me wrong. You pairing up Anthony Davis, who we're talking about a top 5 player in this league, comparing up with LeBron James, who's arguably the greatest player to ever play the game of basketball. And also, he's not happy right now. Braun is not happy, and he's not satisfied. So we would expect him to come out with a chip on his shoulder next year, and it would be scary. I mean, you have LeBron James and Anthony Davis, and you put just a few pieces around them, and the West is wide open. I mean, you get a couple role players, and, hey, those guys could lead you.
Also point out the Raptors re-signed Kawhi. That's a good bet.
Right.
Yes.
If I was a fan base to be upset right now, or a team, I'd be like Denver Nuggets. I'd be like, where are we at? I mean, they had the number 2 seed in the West. The Warriors are coming down a little bit. They're going to get older. Jamal Murray will get better. Jokic will get better. They may be able to make a move in the offseason.